I was speaking a couple of days ago about the restitution by Netherlands of 119 Benin bronzes to the Nigerian government. The Museum of Fine Arts in Boston has recently transferred additional Benin works to the Oba of Benin. The Dutch gave them to the state of Nigeria. The Museum of Fine Arts gave them to the non-sovereign monarch and custodian of Benin culture, Oba Uware II. And more recently, France has agreed to return the Gigi Ayokwe talking drum to Ivory Coast. That's something that was taken by colonial forces in 1916. And a lot of the articles that I've been reading about this today say that this is part of a growing international reckoning with the colonial era looting of African cultural heritage. Dr. Motsane Seabela joins us now, and he is not the Secretary General of the Nelson Mandela Bay Chamber of Commerce, which appears on my screen. He is rather, I think, the curator of anthropology at the Ditsong National Museum of Cultural History. Doctor, very good afternoon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Growing international reckoning with the colonial era looting of African cultural heritage. Is that a description that you would agree with, that more and more countries in the West, colonial powers, are starting to acknowledge that they must return their looted cultural artifacts?
Absolutely. A whole lot of European countries, um, I think a lot of them are also starting to feel the pressure from the growing calls from Africa and other colonial or former colonial um, states. And but it is also encouraging in that a lot, even if it's because of the pressure that they are feeling now. A whole lot are coming and joining in the global calls and returning or making processes to return the African objects or the so-called objects.
Are there significant holdouts? Countries saying, no, they're ours, or countries saying, well, we want to give most of them back, but there are a couple that are so important in terms of what we display to visitors that we're going to keep them? Or is there a widespread acknowledgement that sooner or later, within the next few years, perhaps in the next decade, all of those looted artifacts will be back in African hands?
In the main, more and more are more receptive to negotiation, which I don't think we should be negotiating. But you have countries and museums like the British Museum that will refer you to policy in that we can loan you the long time loans or indefinite loans, and it just does not make sense how one would steal from you and then loan what they've stolen from you.
And is it a legitimate question to ask or to try and negotiate before the restitution? What are you going to do with them? How are you going to look after them? What access will your people have to these artifacts that we are returning to you?
It isn't legitimate at all because any ethical restitution should be unconditional. So if you are going to be returning, or if those institutions are returning this objects to South African communities, and not just South African, but African countries and communities, and even families, there shouldn't be any conditions or be asking us how we're going to be using those. So it should just be unconditional. The transfer of all the ownership of tangible, intangible heritage should just be unconditional. So, in addition to the physical return of those objects, there should also be a total and complete return of also associated intellectual property that relates to research and documentation and anything that has been digitized. So there shouldn't be any conditions, because some of the
Okay, so
objects,
the handover should not be conditional. Fair enough, but what is
absolutely.
the degree of reliability of those tangible and intangibles being looked after? Our news team has recently done a series of reports on sites of significant historical interest in South Africa, which have been left to rot. Basically, there's no care for them. They declared and then they abandoned, and the abandonment shows. So surely there is a massive moral imperative on African governments that get these objects back to treat them with the respect they deserve.
Absolutely. And while it's important to have the state-to-state repatriations, a lot of times the communities from where those objects come from are left behind and not really included in this discussion, because some of these objects were taken from the communities. They were not taken from museums. They were taken from communities. They were taken from families. Some of these ones, and I'll give an example, on divination, or those that relate to divination, they are in museums and they've been taken from those families. So if they are going to be taken or repatriated from a museum in Europe into a museum in South Africa, because we are concerned and so obsessed with wanting to preserve them, then the restitution process is not complete, and we cannot claim that we have restituted them. For as long as they've not reached the relevant communities and the families from where they were taken from, then we might as well leave them in European countries, because we will be perpetuating the westernized way of collection management, of conservation, of wanting to look after them, wearing gloves, and monitoring certain types of temperatures within the rooms where they will be situated.
Thank you very much. Dr. Motsane Seabela is the curator of anthropology at the Ditsong National Museum of Cultural History.